Yo, 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 welcome back to the When Words Don't Come Easy podcast. I'm your host, Andy Howard. If this is your first time to ever be here, welcome. So glad that you have made it here. This is a podcast about hope. And today we are going to be talking about the comeback. And I am so excited to share some stories today that are just going to blow your mind. Honestly, they will be coming on in a few minutes from now. Some dear friends of mine. But before we do, I want to set this up. I remember it was 1993 for all you sports fanatics. And if you're not a sports guru, just bear with me for the first couple minutes here. I got to set this up. But the year was 1993. It was the Buffalo Bills and the Houston Oilers, who don't even exist anymore as the Houston Oilers. But anyways, I believe the score was 35-3 halfway through the third quarter. I mean, AFC championship game, by the way. Winner of this goes to the Super Bowl, 35-3. This one is done. This is when the THJ was first born. And for those who don't know, that's my brother, Tim Howard. We call it the Timothy Howard jinx, the THJ. He walks in, he sees the score 35-3. This one's over, walks out. From that point, and from in fairness, it's 35-3. The Bills have their backup quarterback in the game, Frank Reich. Love Frank, but he was not Jim Kelly, right? And it just looked hopeless at the time. From that point on, from the THJ moment, everything flipped on its lid. The Oilers could not do anything right from that moment on, and the Bills could do nothing wrong. Ended up tying the game up and going into overtime and winning that to go on to the Super Bowl. That's a different story, but still an amazing comeback that lives on to this day that most people who talk comebacks. There's another one that's dear to my heart. I got to tell you about it. It's 2016, because you guys know me by now. You know I love my Aggies. I'm an A&M dude, true and true. It was actually, my guest will love this one today because he's a diehard basketball guy as well, but just not for the good guys. We'll work on that. Anyways, 2016 in the NCAA second round of the tournament, good old fighting Texas Ags are playing UNI, who is a powerhouse. Not really. I was making fun of them, unfortunately, the week before because they beat Texas. And so that was a good one because, my two favorite teams are the Aggies and whoever's, playing Texas. So anyways, I was making fun of them, but now there's 35 seconds left on the clock. A&M is down by 12. I mean, it is all but over. In fact, I was already sulking, just being honest with you. Tiff walks by and she's like, "You really have a problem." And I admit I do have a problem. And I don't know why I love sports so much, but I do. And I was miserable. And I can't leave. That's my problem. I cannot leave. I'm not fair weather. I will tell you that. I'm very loyal. So if we're going down, I'm going to go down with the ship. And it was down 12. I later read on one of those, or it might have been the sports science they do on Sports Center. There was a 99.99% chance that UNI was going to win that game. Up 12 with 35 seconds. The craziest comeback I've ever seen. It's even more special when it happens to you for your team, right? So A&M came back. They started pressing, got a turnover, hit a three. I'm like, oh, 9-point game, but still 9 points in 30 seconds. Got another quick turnover, quick layup. It's like 7. I'm like, wish you would have been doing this earlier, hollering at my TV. They tried to throw the next pass in and it went out of bounds because we were pressing so hard. And I'm like, there's a chance here. Hit a three. We are down by like 3 with 15 seconds. They scored 2. And I'm like, oh, that's probably it. They tied the game up somehow. I still don't remember it. Don't leave right now. Do not leave to go. But you do need to do homework on this. Go YouTube this. A&M versus UNI 2016. It's worth the 5-minute watch of that. Anyways, I love a comeback story. And no matter where you're at today, you may be in need of a comeback. Or if you're not in there today, down the road, you may be in need of a comeback. We all get hit hard. We all face hard trials. We all face situations that are just, they'll knock your breath away sometimes. But the only way you can't come back is if you quit. That's what I want to get to you today. The only way you cannot come back is if you give up. So as long as you hang in there, there is hope for you. And that's what this podcast is about. It's about giving hope, about sharing help. So I want to tell you one last story, and then I'm going to bring on my guests. And this story takes place. So for those who don't know my full story, you'll have to go back and watch episode 1 of the podcast when I had Tiffany on, and she shares so many of the things we went through. But one thing we didn't get to that day was about 5 years after Peyton's birth, we decided to try and have kids again. And well, this was actually 4 years into it. Found out we were going to have another baby, and we're just so excited. Blasted it on social media everywhere. Didn't know the whole wait till after the first trimester rule is kind of the thing. We were just so excited. Went to the first appointment to hear the baby's heartbeat and all that. And just, man, we were just on cloud 9. And we had been waiting a long time. Went through a lot of tests. A lot of doctors told us we shouldn't try to have kids again. What if it happens like Peyton? And even Tiff said, are you ready for that? Because that really took a toll on me. You know my story. A lot of you have heard the depression I went through. And I had prayed about it. And I was ready for that if that should happen. But no one could tell us, was it genetic or was it caused by some kind of medical mishap? What happened? And no one really knew. So we were just trusting the Lord, and we were ready. And so we found out we were pregnant. We were at our first appointment. And I'll never forget, the doctor that we were seeing was a specialist, and he sent us to his buddy upstairs because it was for high risk pregnancies. We qualified after Peyton's pregnancy. So we were seeing this amazing doctor, and he's one of the best. And even him, he was just going through everything with Tiff, and he finally said, "Hey guys, I want you to see my friend upstairs." He wasn't alarmed. He was very calm. He even gave us 2 free lunch vouchers, which, me and Tiff were like all over that. We were like, what, free food? And so excited, like what a blessing. We're getting free food today, and didn't even know what was around the corner. What he was really doing was he was nervous about the baby, and he sent us upstairs to a guy who had even special, better equipment. And sure enough, his buddy said, yeah, there's no easy way to tell you this, but there's no heartbeat. And so then, oh man, again, right? It's like, God, you done ripped the rug out from under our feet. What's going on here? And unless you've went through something like that, you may not truly grasp just what a kick to the gut it is. It's like, all your wind is knocked out. And so we just grabbed each other again. We prayed, we held on, and we knew God had a plan, but it was hard. And so we went home that day, met our pastors. They prayed for us, went back to church the next week. And what was so hard, we had to start telling people over and over, because I had plastered it everywhere, that we were having a baby. So now everybody and their dog keeps saying, "Oh, congratulations." And you have to go through that. And it's like ripping the Band-Aid off and ripping the scab off over and over. It's like, actually, we lost the baby. And what's crazy to try to wrap this up is that day in church, that first day, there was a song that just really grabbed Tiffany. And it's a popular worship song, and I'm sure you've probably heard it before, but one of the lines in there says, "You give and take away, you give and take away. My heart would choose to say, blessed be your name." And Tiffany felt like that was the Lord speaking to her, that hey, I got you guys. And still very hard. So fast forward 3 months later, we found out we were pregnant again. Just 3 months, 90 days afterwards. So this time, nobody knew. We did learn from our mistakes. wasn't telling a soul. Went to see the exact same specialist, exact same room. That's weird. Of all the little rooms he had, they put us in the exact same room. I remembered it like yesterday. I was nervous Nelly, just sitting there sweating bullets, man. And he did it again. And I mean, he is just so calm. So he's not telling us, he's got a poker face on and he's not reacting. I'm watching this doctor like a hawk. And he's like, guys, I want you to go see my friend again. I see something here. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. But I tried to remain calm. This time I am so nervous. And we go to the same doctor upstairs, same waiting room. He puts us in the exact same room again. Same deep breath. And he says, I see what your doctor sees. There's 2 heartbeats. So, wow, right? This time, the exact same scenario, all the way down to the same room, but this time we were having twins. It's crazy. As we get back to church the following Sunday, the worship team played that exact same song. And I know you could be saying that's a coincidence, all the thing, but I like to call them God winks. And I think he cares about you so much that he cares about even the little details like that he takes care of you. So anyways, that was so fascinating. I absolutely love that he is the God of the comeback. And so no matter where you're at, I want you to know there is hope for you. And so without further ado, I have a couple of friends that I want to bring on now, and their names are Austin and Monique Ketron. Guys, are you there?
We are here. Hey, thank you for having us.
Well, it's so good to have you. And that's Monique there, and Austin's there. Austin, why don't you say something as well? We're going to get you in on this thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having us, man. It's an honor. Glad to be here. And, love what you're doing with the podcast and hearing your story and sharing that to bring hope to other people.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much. And Austin, I thought you would like that sports talk earlier to kind of get us in the groove here. I know you're a big Wildcat guy, so you probably like the NCAA basketball talk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, hearing about that powerhouse University of Northern Iowa.
Hey, that's what makes March Madness beautiful. You never know, right? But anyway, it's so good to have you. And Monique, I was thinking about the first time I ever met you. I believe Austin must have been working. I know what we're doing now, we're all in this thing together as business partners, entrepreneurs and all. But and these guys are independent Optavia coaches as well. So I want you to be aware of that. But I believe at the time Monique came by herself. First time I ever met her, I know Andrea had introduced a mutual friend of ours, introduced her to us, and she was just so bubbly and so happy. And I remember seeing that, and I was like, man, that smile is just so contagious. And then I want to say the same about Austin. I see Austin. So if you've ever had the privilege, and I say it's a privilege because he will make you level up where you're at. But if you've ever had the privilege of being in the same room with him when you're working out. So anyways, I want to say this now, and please hang with me. There's a reason I'm mentioning both of these things. It's because a few months ago, we were in Cancun, and we were doing a kind of a presentation there, and we were sharing, and I looked over at Austin. It was my turn to introduce him. And this emotion just welled up. I didn't even know where it came from, right? But it was these I just got so emotional, so tears, because people look at him and they see him as a beast in the gym, and they see these two as a successful couple running a phenomenal business, and they see where they're at today. But when I looked at them, all I could see was the backstory. All I could see is how both of them almost weren't here today. Mm-hmm. Both of them, I had the privilege of writing about them in the new book that's been out for about a month now. When Words Don't Come Easy, please, if you get a chance, go check that out. But chapter 3 talks about these two here. And they both shared with me about a time in their life when, at different times, but both were at one time suicidal. And look at them now. Look at them now. That's why I'm talking about the comeback. So we're going to dive into that a little bit. But first, tell me a little bit just about your childhood, and you guys can choose who wants to go first. But I just want to know, what was it like? What was a typical day like growing up in your childhood?
I'll let you go first.
All right, I'll jump in. So I had a great childhood. Mom and dad in the house, an older sister. There was a lot of importance put on education. Regular school day, come home, do homework, and a lot of times go outside and play sports with the kids in the neighborhood or go to sports leagues that I was playing in, baseball, basketball, football, tennis, whatever it might be during that time. A lot of times we would have family dinners together in the evening, spend time together then, and a lot of times watching sports with my dad before I would go to bed. So as far as a childhood, from that standpoint, education, faith, we went to church on Sunday. We were part of the church community as well. I had every opportunity there is for a kid in a great environment that I was growing up in.
Yeah, mine's a little bit different from Austin's. My mom had me young. She was a single mom. My biological father left when I was about 6 years old, 7 years old. So I think that abandonment came in right from there. And then he went on to have another family. And it's like, well, how can you love them, but you can't even love me? My mom did remarry. And I don't call him my stepdad because I took his last name. But I was the oldest. There's big gaps between my siblings and I. And yeah, we grew up in New York City and it was a little different. There was a lot of hustle bustle in my family. Things fell off a truck. If you don't know what that means, maybe watch Goodfellas or something like that. So there was a lot. It was just a different upbringing from Austin's, and I love my family, but honesty was not really, that was something I had to learn as I got older. And I really think I learned that through Optavia and getting sober. But things, it was just a little bit different than Austin's, a little bit chaotic at times. And yeah, I grew up in an Italian American family that it's a little enmeshed. So.
Absolutely love that, Monique. And we probably don't even have time to do this, but that would be a totally different episode. But love hearing your family background. It's very fascinating to me anyways. But tell me more, I guess, on the first, so both of you have struggled with drugs and alcohol. And I guess about what age did that start? Kind of run me through that process for you two. And when, I guess before that's before you met, right? Because y'all ended up, that's cool how God even brought you together. So tell us about that pre-meeting and then how you met, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I was, so I really believe that mine started, it was in different forms. It was definitely in food as a kid. And then I wanted that control. So I did develop an eating disorder at 13 years old, and I was bulimic. And then that wasn't working for me anymore. And then by the time I was about, I don't even know when I had my first drink. Again, I'm from an Italian family. You're sick, you drink a glass of wine. So I don't really know that, but I know that I started smoking marijuana at a young age. And I was like, wow, I have arrived. I don't have to think of anything. And it was such an escape for me. And then I can play pretend with my life. So I think for me, that's where it came.
And how about you, Austin?
Yeah, for me, it started in high school. That was my first time really experiencing drinking alcohol, smoking marijuana. And I remember the first time getting drunk and the feeling that it gave me. It was a release. I had a lot of anxiety, a lot of worry, a lot of fear growing up. And I felt like, there's a lot of weight off my shoulders here. And looking back, I had a lot of addict behaviors before I even picked up that drink.
Yeah.
And the choices I made, the way that I went about things. I think there was a lot of on the hereditary side, looking at my family history with it. And also when I did pick up the drink and the drugs, what that looked like is it just escalated. And it was not having casual drinks, it was drinking to get drunk. And then as I went on to the college years, after that, it was just continually increasing and increasing.
Yeah. And that's a powerful story. And we haven't really we got to the tip of the iceberg. I guess there's so much more. I I want to, I don't mean to laugh. You got to laugh at some of it,
Absolutely.
but I love hearing Austin's viewpoint of how you guys met. And I'll let you both describe how you met, but Austin's is hilarious. And actually, they're both funny. But tell me about how you guys met for I believe this was the first time you met, right? The version I've heard. Okay, tell us about that.
Well, I just want to start it off where I'm an extrovert and Austin's a little bit more introverted. So that will give you the whole backside of the story. So
and even backing up into when we met, where we were at that point. This was the third, I had been an alcoholic and addict for a decade at this point. At this point I had completely isolated. I'd lost everything in my life. College baseball scholarship, law school, employment, friends, family relationships. Because of the choices I made and choosing to live this lifestyle, all of that was gone. So I was at rock bottom. When we had met, I'd already been to rehab a couple of times. I'd had bouts of sobriety. I had relapsed. And so I'm coming in at rock bottom. I just got picked up by the cops outside of a seedy motel in South Florida. And I had jail or rehab again as an option. I'm 30 years old at this time. So I walk into this place. I'm a little down, as you can imagine. Life's not going too good for me, right? And here I'm sitting by myself, and she doesn't understand. She comes over. She doesn't understand, why is this guy sitting by himself?
I was so confused. I felt like it was so sad. He was eating alone.
She thought she was at summer camp or the high school cafeteria. And I was, the lonely guy over here. And so I'm sitting there, head down, and she comes over and is like, hey, how's it going? Well, not too good. We're at a detox because we got issues with drugs and alcohol. Life's not going too great right now. And she's like, well, can I sit with you? Do you want to eat together? And she just starts talking to me and all bubbly, and we eat together. And I'm like, what is wrong with this girl? Does she not realize where we're at? This isn't a vacation or a spa. We're at a drug and alcohol detox. And then she offers me a cigarette, which I didn't even smoke at the time, but I figured, hey, I got a pretty girl next to me. I might as well smoke me a cigarette. And so that was the first time we met, was at the drug and alcohol detox, and Monique, being her bubbly, nice self, coming over and initiating a conversation.
I wasn't taking detox too seriously. That was my first rodeo. And I believed, if you would have saw my luggage and what I packed in there, I thought I was getting shipped off to like a yoga retreat or something. I had no idea that we were going to detox. And then I get into this place and we're like locked in, you guys. Like there's nowhere to go to. Like even you smoked inside. Like it was just awful. And I had snuck in some pills and I was using while I was in detox. So he was detoxing and I was not detoxing. So I was flying high in there.
That is, I don't want to say that is awesome, but that's as awesome as it can be, I guess, in a detox facility. But look, even that, right? Because I've talked about the details. I don't believe in coincidences. In episode 2, if you guys go back there, I talked about what are the odds of me meeting Pat Schatzline, who is now a dear friend of mine, who helped me get out of depression by watching his book. This dude that's on TV, and I see his book and I order it, and then we become friends. Like in this whole big giant universe, what are the odds, right? That's the short version. Anyways, what are the odds that God brought you two together like that? And now look at you, got a beautiful family. You have 4 kids, right? Is it 4? Okay.
So, yeah.
See, I'm trying to be the detail guy. Tiff always says everyone has 100 kids, and I just didn't want to do that with you guys. But you have 4 kids and twins too, right? Y'all have twins?
Yeah.
Fellow twin parents. I love that. Well, so tell me how long it took, I guess. Was that the last time for you guys in detox, or you said that was your first rodeo, Monique? How long did it take for you guys to kind of get sober and kind of see things start to look up for you?
Yeah, we both went into sober houses. You had relapsed. And then we met up again in a sober house. And, I will say, they tell you when you're getting sober not to get into any relationships or have, sex in the first X amount of, what is it, a year? They
Yeah.
usually say, so you can actually focus on yourself. Well, I don't follow any rules. So we winded up getting pregnant really quickly while I was living in a sober home. Austin had, a small apartment with a floral couch that he found. And we really didn't have much. So I moved in with him. And to be quite honest, we didn't really like each other. We did not like each other. It was really, really messy. So from there, it took me a little bit. I just celebrated 6 years of sobriety, but it took me a little bit after having kids and, relapsing over and over again. Whereas Austin, his story was a little bit different.
Yeah. So after where we met in the detox, I went back out after that relapse, and that was the last time. So, I'm at 11 years of sobriety now. And so, once we went our separate ways, she went to the women's sober house, I went to the men's. We did go through the process of Alcoholics Anonymous. We did have sponsors. Yeah. We did go to our home groups. We did go to the meetings. We did the work. Mm-hmm. And that was, 9 months in is when we started seeing each other again. We would talk on the phone, but we did follow directions to a certain extent. We didn't wait the full year. But, to even dive into it a little bit, when we found out Monique was pregnant, she had essentially broken up the relationship because she was moving back to New York. Mm-hmm. And I was in South Florida. I was making about $10 an hour working in a warehouse. So long distance relationship was not going to happen. I could barely even put food on the table. And so she's going back to New York. She stops in Jacksonville on the way from South Florida to New York. And this is absolutely God moment. And she stops at her parents' house here in Jacksonville. And her mom says, something's off with you. I know you're not using drugs or drinking, but something seems off. Why don't you take a pregnancy test? And at that point, that's how we found out. She called me at work one morning, and I thought things were over. She's going to New York. I'm here. I'll probably never see her again. And so that's when she came back down to South Florida. And it was actually really tough because I'm going
to be real honest, because I think I can be raw here and open. Yes. And I hope this is hope for someone else. I'll be honest, I really wasn't considering having the baby. I had plans, and Austin had said to me, because abortion in my family is something lots of people have done. I've had one earlier when I was younger. So I was just like, I don't even know. And Austin had called me and he said, will you give this kid a chance? My family and I will raise this baby. And then my hormones went off and I was like, who does he think he is?
So was it, who does he think he is, or was it forget about it?
It was a little bit of both. It was a little bit of both.
Wow. And that was a really bad version of the forget about it. I try. Anyways, that is awesome. So sorry for interrupting, but
no, yeah. And for that moment there, I had to make that decision, and I was so fearful because I didn't really have a strong faith. My faith really came from Alcoholics Anonymous. I grew up Catholic. We weren't really practicing. Lots of rules. Me, I hate rules. So Austin always kids around, and he will say, I used to pray to a bunch of dead people because I did. And he's like, well, I don't know about your prayers. Let's talk about that. So, I didn't have that faith, and I was really, really, really scared. Like, how can this work? Why is this happening? And Austin was a man, as my dad says, and he stepped up and he made it work.
And the fight didn't end there for our relationship and for our children. She came back to South Florida to live with me in the apartment. That did not last long. We were not getting along. It did not look good for the relationship. And so she moved back with her parents. And a month before she was due to have our first son, Michael, I decided to move to Jacksonville. I didn't have much going on in South Florida. I was making $10 an hour working in a warehouse. I was like, well, I'm not leaving a career behind. I don't have any roots here. I'm going to move up here. We'll see if it works. If not, at least I'll be around my son. And so, from the beginning, God's intervention and us deciding to do the work and actually fight for the relationship and for our family has shown up. And so, when we moved up here, I moved up here, we did live together, and Michael was born. And, at that point, we're on government assistance. Neither of us have a job. We're just trying to get by and figure this out with a newborn son and
So
us.
depressive.
And,
So depressive.
and I was in a depression at that point where, I just wanted an opportunity to work, and I kept getting turned down for job after job.
Because if he had a 10-year gap of not working from drugs and alcohol. So.
And then people see that, I'm sure, and it's hard, right? And you want a chance, you want an opportunity. And so what was it that kept you going? Was it your son, Michael? What was it that flipped the switch for you guys to fight for more, for your marriage and for your family and success? We came from that same background, from just getting government assistance and help and all the things. What was it that flipped the switch for you guys to fight for more?
For me, that's what I'd been taught since I was a child. That's what my dad instilled in me. My brother-in-law's a pastor who I look up to a lot, and people within the church. There's a way to go about things where you show up and protect and provide for your family, and you never give up on that. And so no matter what you're going through, that's not an option, is to walk out on the family or not be there for your kids. So I've had that instilled in me since I was a young child. And I saw it in practice with my father, and also saw when it wasn't practiced with other family members and what that did to my cousins and people that were really close to me. And I knew the route I was going to go. And, that's where I give a lot of credit to, is the people in my life growing up and setting that example for me. So to me, it wasn't really an option when we were at that place to not fight for it and to not, try to make the relationship work, be there for my son.
Yeah, I'm pretty much a fighter, and I'll never ever quit, and I'll never back down. So, and I know for me, I realized the impact as a kid when my dad left and how I felt. And I knew I loved Austin because obviously we met before kids, but there was just a lot of other stuff there. And I was like, you know what? We're going to make this work. We are going to make this work. So we fought, and it was messy and chaotic.
Yeah. And it often is. That's what I want people to see. And that's why I'm so glad you guys are so vulnerable and opening up here. Because what I saw when I met you for the first time, Monique, was this bubbly, smiling, happy person, right? I had no idea your story, no idea what you've been through. I just thought, wow, this person's really happy. Same thing for Austin. I see this beast working out in the gym, and I'm like, man, he's got it all together. And that's what I think so many people do. They look at where you're at. They don't always see where you came from. And so I think this is so powerful. What would you say if anyone, for whatever reason, they stumbled on this podcast, a friend of theirs sent it to them, who knows, they were just surfing, found it somehow by accident. What would you say to that person who is in need of a comeback today, for both of you? Either one.
I would say we're all going to go through trials and tribulations in life. Theirs might look different than mine and Monique's. And, that's, to each their own with that, right? But the resilience and the continuing to progress and work forward and want to go from where you are to a different place is not going to be easy. But also surrounding yourself with people that are going to encourage you and help you down that path and be there for you and walk with you. Finding people that are mentors, finding people in your church, if it's drugs and alcohol and AA, finding the right group of people, they're going to help you get there as well. And also realizing that, okay, if I don't do the work to move forward, then my life's going to be the same or worse. Is that how I want to live my existence for the next 20, 30, 40 years? And, it's not easy to go from a place of rock bottom to to moving your way up in life. But it is possible for everyone. And, so I would say doing the work, having the resilience to keep getting up and fighting, and then also surrounding yourself with the right people. And I say that because I was hanging out with a lot of criminals, drug dealers, people like that. Those are the people I'm out there drinking and drugging with. And I saw where that led me. And then when I started leaning into people at my church, people that were doing better in life, people like you and Tiffany, when we came into this and seeing like, oh, there's a different way. There's a different way to go about this. There's better people. And I don't say we're all equal in God's eyes, but they're making the choices that are going to better their life. And I look up to that. And hey, that's something that I would like in my life as well.
Yeah, I always, my thing is don't quit before the miracle happens. And I think too many people, it's easier to back down, right? Because it's scary and they don't think that they have it in them. But I just want to say, fight for, your what you want. And secrets keep us sick. So I really, vulnerability is one of the things for me, is letting people in that walked that whatever you're going through, that road. And there's power in that of not to walk alone. So I agree, the mentors. And I just want to say, coming into Optavia, Andy, that helped me because I was newly sober when I came into Optavia. I was only a few months sober, and wow. I found Optavia, and how you and Tiff spoke to one another and how you loved one another. It was just something I learned, and I didn't see that. So I just want to thank you guys for leading by example.
That is so cool. And you were saying that, I was kind of doing the math in my head. I had no idea. But when you said 6 years ago, I was like, oh gosh, we've been coaching 7 years. And I knew it was right around that time when we met. So cool. So happy for both of you. I mean, goodness gracious. And your kids, they're not going to remember. That's what's so crazy about when you choose to make this difference and you flip the switch and you start fighting for what's something better for you. It doesn't matter where you've come from. Your kids are never going to know. Like, they're going to watch this maybe one day, who knows? And they're going to be like, wow, I never knew that about you guys, because I've only seen this Monique and Austin. I've only seen the loving parents, or I've only seen two that are fighting for marriage and not wanting to separate. I've only seen two that are fighting for health goals and not, giving into addiction. So it's not saying we're all perfect. We're not. We take every single day at a time and do our best. But you were exactly right, Monique. If you quit, if you give up, you never know what's happening tomorrow, right? I remember like yesterday, our story. We were so discouraged and didn't know where help was coming from. But then it's like a light switch came on. It's a totally different life for us now. And we almost missed out on all this as well, all this fun that God had in store for us. So my challenge would be the same. Just don't quit. Like Austin said, surround yourself with people who have what you want and fight for it. So it's been an honor having you guys. Is there anything in closing that you want to share? It may not even be about your story itself, but anything you wanted that you had on your mind as well?
Anything you have?
I don't have anything.
No, I just hope, I know this podcast is going to bring hope to a lot of people. So thank you, Andy, for doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys. And it's an honor to do life with you. I love calling you friends, and it really is. So happy to see. And that's what, now you see this story. That's what I was seeing when I was introducing Austin. And even in the book, it goes into it a little deeper there, where there was a time when both of them were almost not here because they both had considered quitting on life. And that's a lie from the enemy. I want you to hear that right now. So if you're considering giving up, that's a lie from the devil. Even if you're not spiritual, and I'm not trying to make this a super spiritual podcast right now, but I just want you to know there is hope for you. So don't ever quit. Don't ever quit. So thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode. If you've enjoyed this, please share it. Share it with somebody. Please subscribe. Pass it on. You can always find out more information about the book at andyhoward.com. It's been a joy having you here. And remember, there's always beauty in the broken. Don't fall for the lie of the enemy that you're too far gone. So love you guys so much. Thanks for tuning in. We will catch you next time. Thanks so much for tuning in. If this episode helped you in any way, it would mean the world to me if you would leave a review and share it with somebody else. Thanks so much. I'll catch you next time.